Welcome to this trip to the Opticians using Playmobil. So in the first scene here, what you can see is that the patient has checked into the practice and is awaiting to be called through to the testing room. And as a matter of fact, here is the optometrist waving to the patient and asking them to come through into the consulting room. Now, looking at the patient, she's obviously very excited to be visiting the opticians today. Her arms are at the side of the chair and her bottom is not touching the seat. So we have a very high degree of excitement here. Just here we have the reception desk. We have a frame catalogue there and the receptionist's laptop computer for checking patients in and making bookings and sending reminders. So that is the first scene. Now we are into the second scene. So the optometrist and the patient are comfortably seated. The patient feels a little more relaxed, slightly less excited due to bottom in the chair. And what the optometrist is doing is taking a history from the patient. This is the first step of the eye examination, where the optometrist is essentially like a detective, asking certain questions to the patient to find out if there are any ocular problems, health problems, etc. So the optometrist will make eye contact with the patient and type the notes on the computer. Now, some of the questions the optometrist may be asking the patient is, are you experiencing any problems with your vision? Any eye pain or redness? He will also ask about ocular history and asking about general health, medication and exploring family ocular history. So that is the history taking portion of the examination there. Okay, so here we are in the third scene. And what the optometrist is doing is checking the patient's vision. So the patient is seated with her head back in the chair. There can be no creeping forward during this test. And the optometrist is just presenting a vision chart here, asking the patient what they can see, what they can read. And for this particular vision test, the optometrist is showing the patient the Land-C chart, and the patient is going to be asked where they see the opening, whether it's up, down, left or right, to determine vision. At the moment, the vision test is being performed binocularly, which means that the patient's two eyes are open, looking at the chart. But what the optometrist also must do is check the vision monocularly with one eye occluded to determine the right and left eye vision. Okay, so in this scene it looks as though the optometrist or eye doctor is preparing to take some photographs of the patient's eyes, both externally and internally, using the high-powered camera here. So the optometrist is just inputting some details. The viewing portals are here, so the optometrist can visualise and focus on the specific part. The patient is seated comfortably And in a moment, the optometrist will ask the patient to come forward, place their chin on the chin rest here. The optometrist can then focus the camera and take some snaps of the eye. So the optometrist may want to capture external images, such as the lids and lashes, conjunctiva and sclera. He may also be able to take some photographs of the crystalline lens and cornea, and then he may also be able to take some retinal photographs, some fundus images, and then the data can be stored in the database for future reference. So the optometrist, patient, photography. So here we have the optometrist performing what looks like a refraction on the patient, trying to determine their prescription, in other words, what power lenses they will need in their spectacles, to be checking the spherical and astigmatic elements of the prescription. Now in this instance, the optometrist is checking the refraction using the phoropter head, which the patient obviously gets very close to. It looks through the various viewing portals, and the optometrist can alter the dials, checking which is the most suitable lens for the patient. In this case, he's probably checked the refraction and is now presenting a chart here in his right hand to see what the patient can read. So that is the phoropter head and refraction. It looks as though we have a trial frame here, which is another way of checking refraction aside from the phoropter. We also can see we have some eye drops here on the desk, possibly some solutions too for things like contact lenses. And we can also see another test on the desk here, which the optometrist will perform later. It appears here in the next scene that the optometrist wants to double check the refraction just to be sure. The patient is still seated, and here the optometrist is handing the patient the trial frames which he can pop on, and the trial frames have little slots for the lenses for a sort of manual refraction. Okay, so here is the next scene, and based on the chart that the optometrist is holding here in front of the patient, it looks as though he's performing a binocular colour vision test based on the small coloured plates on the chart here. Colour defects or inherited colour defects are much common in males than females, so the likelihood of the optometrist finding a colour defect in the female patient here is fairly remote, but he's just making sure that he covers all bases just to be sure. Okay, moving on, the optometrist is performing a new test on the patient, who is still very relaxed in the chair. Now, as you look at the optometrist, the body language tells me that he is very excited and a keen gamer, particularly the game Minecraft. The optometrist is asking the patient if she has ever seen a building like this before, and does she play Minecraft? The optometrist clearly loves Minecraft because he's giving a very big hooray. The patient possibly likes Minecraft, but we're not too sure yet. So it may well be that the optometrist is nearing the end of the examination, and you may have discovered here that the patient has a certain amount of dry eye syndrome based on the drop bottle that he's holding in his hand here, and it looks as though as the patient sits back and relaxes in the chair, the optometrist is just instilling a drop of ocular lubricant into the patient's right eye, just to see whether this provides any relief from the dry eyes. So there's probably a little sample bottle which the patient can purchase. So now it looks as though the optometrist has finished the ocular examination, and it's clear to see that he has recommended spectacles for the patient, some optical correction to enhance the patient's sight. So this is what's known as the optical dispense. The optometrist has displayed some spectacles on the table here that he feels the patient may be interested in based on her preferences, and he's also taking some spectacles out of the drawer here, and we have the spectacle catalogue there. If the patient would like to see some further spectacles that the practice could order in. So the patient is having a look at which glasses may suit her. So in the final scene here, it looks as though the patient's visit to the opticians is coming to a close. The optometrist is standing on this side, waving goodbye to the patient as she prepares to leave the practice. Looking at the patient's body language, it's clear to see that she's had a very happy and satisfying visit to the opticians. We have both arms raised in the air, and she is giving a hooray for the service and personal attention that she has received. So that is a little look at her visit to the opticians using Playmobil.